It's ticking. I think that means it's working. Okay, I should probably mute my computer here. What's up, everybody? My name is Justin Nault. I'm back for week number 2 of Facebook Live Ask Me Anything. We're gonna hit this again, and I learned some things last week about myself. Thanks to your feedback. A couple things. I talk fast as shit. I talk fast. I give you a lot of information all at once. I apologize for that. I've been deep down the rabbit hole on this nutrition, fitness, mindset, wellness space for so long that I forget that there's a lot of things that seem like common knowledge to me. Everybody knows this, you know? But they don't. Like, a lot of these things that I'm talking about, it's the first time that people hear these things. So they kind of need a minute to process. And that's what I found last week was a lot of the follow-up questions that I got were basically just asking me more questions on the thing I said in the first episode. So apparently when you do your first episode and you tell people that fruit can kill you, cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease, lectins in many healthy vegetables are terrible for you, dairy will kill you, and then you let them know that there is actual paleo-friendly wine, you break their brain, they freak out, they start writing you more questions to elaborate on the things that you said. So let's get, just like last week, we'll get the first things out of the way. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna share, if you're looking at this Facebook Live on the Clovis Culture page, you can click the share button and you can click share now and it will share it directly to your timeline. So you can share this video so that all your friends can watch it. We can broadcast it all at the same time. The more people that share, the better it's gonna be. Click the like button or the little happy face or the love thing, whatever you wanna do. And we'll get this out of the way in case this is the first time you're seeing this. My name is Justin Nault. I'm a certified nutritional therapist. I'm a certified specialist in sports nutrition. I am the founder of a company called the Clovis Culture, and I invented a line of nutritional products called the Perfect Paleo Powder. This is a weekly Q&A session that I'm gonna do. It's an Ask Me Anything, so I take questions throughout the week. Then at the end, we'll do a live Q&A. On the beginning, I'll probably hit like 2 or 3 topics, and I've selected 2 or 3 topics leading up to this episode that were the most popular questions I got. Now, like I said, for the first episode, the most popular questions I got were asking for clarification on some of the things I talked about last week. So I'll dive into those briefly. I'll hit a couple new topics on top of that. And then depending on how much time we have, I don't know if I'll go an hour. Last time was an hour. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we're at 6,000 views right now, which is just nuts. This was kind of a little experiment I did. I said, hey, we'll see how this goes. And 6,000 views later, a boatload of shares and a zillion comments. It's been awesome. So thank you guys. I love you so much for that. That's amazing. This is like a dream for me. So let's dive in. Further explanations from last week. The big questions that I got were about lectins. I talked about lectins, and it was the first time some people have heard that term, so we're gonna talk about lectins. We're gonna talk about dairy. I'm basically gonna give you a crash course on dairy today because dairy is insanely misunderstood. Like nobody really knows. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? Well, it turns out it's both. As in most foods, it's the same with meat. Is meat good for you? Is meat bad for you? Depends on where the meat comes from. Dairy depends on where the dairy comes from. So another thing we'll talk about is pre-workout. So that's why I have this awesome Clovis shirt on. No big deal, I'm just stretching. But yeah, so red is for our pre-workout. We have a pre-workout supplement in the line of the Perfect Paleo Powder, and I'm gonna talk about why I created a pre-workout supplement. I mentioned that last week that pre-workouts are some of the most dangerous supplements on planet Earth. They're just terrible for you, most of them, except for ours. So I'll explain why that is. Yeah, shameless promotion there. Might touch on lifestyle a little bit because I think I got some people with the lifestyle thing. I really just hit a lot on self-discipline, which is really what it is. It's simply a choice. And then we have some new topics. The biggest questions I got were about alcohol, how alcohol affects this whole weight loss journey. So I'll just talk about it, what alcohol does to the body, and how it affects fat loss. Then we'll talk about meal prep. A lot of people need to meal prep because they have 9-to-5 jobs and that kind of thing, and families, it can be really tricky. So we're gonna touch on those. And I also want to talk about why some people lose fat faster than others and why there are people who can, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, like I've seen time and time again, or people that lose 0 pounds in 2 weeks and then 4 weeks later lose 20 pounds. Why is that when they're following the same protocol? We'll talk on all those things. Like I said, I'm going to try to slow it down just a little bit. Won't go so crazy. I drank a lot of coffee. I had some Alpha Brain today from On It. That's some good shit. Okay, step one, let's get into lectins. So I touched on lectins and leaky gut syndrome. That's exactly what lectins do. lectins cause leaky gut. But before we get there, I want to explain what lectins are. Lectins are proteins. They're larger proteins. So, real quick lesson, you share about 99% of your DNA with every living thing on planet Earth. I'm going to repeat that again. You share about 99% of your DNA with every living thing on Earth. You look outside, you see a tree, that tree is basically you. That tree has DNA. You have DNA. That tree has ribosomes. You have ribosomes. You can read each other's DNA. Literally, it's insane. So the building blocks of life are called amino acids. Everything is made up of amino acids. That's when you talk about branched chain amino acids or amino acid profiles in vegetables versus meat, when vegetarians say, well, there are complete proteins in vegetables. A complete protein means it includes all essential and non-essential amino acids. So amino acids, tiny little proteins, and they piece together like Legos. Now, they build together, literally just like Legos, to form proteins. So amino acids collect like Legos, build proteins. Proteins get bigger, collect like Legos, bigger, 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 and they build all your tissue. They build your muscle tissue, your hair, your skin, your organs, your bone. This is all tissue. It's all made up of amino acids. So lectins are just one type of protein. And the most famous is gluten. So gluten is a lectin. Gluten is a protein. And that's, you talk about people with celiac disease, they avoid gluten, then gluten-free became this huge trend because you can lose weight in a gluten-free diet unless you start eating boxed gluten-free garbage. Don't do that. But gluten is the most famous. It gets all the terrible rap, but there are a lot of lectins that are every bit as damaging as gluten, if not more damaging. So what a lectin does is it looks just like a normal protein. A normal protein that your body would allow through the lining of the gut and into the bloodstream to help fuel your cells and build more tissue, right? So it has a really hard time telling the difference. So lectins are proteins found in plants, and it's actually found in some animal products as well. But there are lectins in plants that are the most damaging. They are weapons. They're weapons for the plant. So think about it. If you're a plant and you're sitting there and basically everything that walks by you wants to eat you, what's your defense mechanism? You don't have one. Well, all living things have defense mechanisms, every single one. So they protect themselves in really strange ways. Like there are certain seeds that get a fox to eat them, and the fox will carry it 3 miles, and all of a sudden the fox will get really, really sick, and it will throw this thing up at the foot of a tree, and that tree goes into the soil, that seed absorbs into the soil at the root of the tree and feeds the tree. It's really insane. I mean, there are so many vegetables that have these tools. They're weapons to protect themselves. I'll give you an example. The acacia bush. If you have a line of acacia bushes set up and a giraffe starts eating one and then goes down the line eating, they will send chemical messages to each other to the point where by the time the giraffe gets to that last plant, that plant is very bitter and it doesn't want to eat it. This is how these species survive. It's their only defense mechanism. So lectins are weapons. They are meant to harm you. That's what they want to do. They're cellular disruptors. They affect your immune system. They affect your sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. They just disrupt communication between your neurons. It's really crazy. Lectins are awful for you, but one of the main things they do is they cause inflammation in the gut, and they take this lining of your gut and they just kind of sneak in undetected as if they're a normal protein, and your body doesn't know the difference until it's too late. So now you get these lectins that are in your bloodstream. Once they're in your bloodstream and the body realizes, uh-oh, it almost scans it like a barcode. Boop, boop. That's not supposed to be here. Call the troops. And it literally manifests an army-like response to the site of this intruder and tries to destroy the intruder. Now, what's the problem with this? The lectin looks a lot like healthy proteins that would help you build tissues. So the body attacks itself. Can't tell the difference between the good lectin protein, between the bad lectin protein and the normal healthy protein. It starts attacking itself. This is the definition of an autoimmune response. Autoimmune is the body attacking itself because there is something in the system that shouldn't be there that's messing things up. It's like a computer virus. You slip a virus into a computer undetected, next thing you know, you can wipe out the whole system. So people are eating these foods that are very high in lectins, right? Now, I'm talking about vegetables, but what we need to get to is the idea of a healthy whole grain, right? Healthy whole grains, I don't even like using the words, I just need to do rabbit ears every time. Healthy whole grains, right? Healthy whole grains and healthy beans, black beans and legumes and all this, they're the biggest offenders of lectins. They literally are not fit for human consumption. They're just not. The science on this is irrefutable. Unless you prepare them in a way, like for beans, you could soak beans overnight in cold water, hot water, whatever you want to do, soak them overnight and then cook them at very high temperatures. You'll get most of the lectins out. Now the bean becomes edible, but I don't know about you, that seems like a lot of work to me, so I just don't eat beans. So that's kind of a crash course on lectins, but with the healthy whole grains, again, I'm gonna keep doing this because just don't eat whole grains, really. There are three main types of really, really bad lectins. Whole grains contain all three. Some vegetables contain one, some fruits contain one or two. These healthy whole grains contain all three of the most damaging lectins, and they shred the lining of your gut. They cause leaky gut. They cause autoimmune disease. That's why you'll have somebody who's like, I've had eczema my entire life, and my dermatologist gives me steroid injections. You pull that person off grains for a month, and their eczema goes away, and they're freaking out. Why? Because they're stopping the autoimmune response from happening. So that's what lectins are. That's just kind of a quick rundown. And I had a question. I think it was Jackie that asked me, about the raw food movement. I'm pretty sure that was Jackie. There's a lot of people that are advocating this raw food diet, and I get it. It's totally cool. Like, I like the idea because they're talking about whole unprocessed foods, because whole unprocessed foods are the only thing that you can eat raw for it to be healthy. You know, I had a cousin who did a raw food diet for a while. Now, the problem with the raw food diet is cooking methods really help with lectins. They really, really do. A lot of these lectins can be cooked out of food. Raw kale, not awesome for you. Cooked kale, wonderful for you. Like I said, beans prepared incorrectly, you shouldn't even eat them. Beans that have been soaked and cooked at high temperatures and remove the lectin content, they're probably pretty safe. They're probably a good source of complex carbohydrates and fiber. So the raw diet it's a little bit misguided, if you ask me. Again, it's hard. I don't want to put it down just because it's so much better than a standard Western diet. If you're going from, fast food and Chinese takeout to a raw diet, shit, I'm all about that. Do it. Stick with it. But that's the problem that I really see with the raw diet is just you're going to get a ton of lectins and fruit. The raw diet, all about fruit. It's like the same with like the alkaline diet. People talk about the alkaline diet, and it's very, very difficult to affect the acidity of your blood. They test the alkaline diet using pea strips, which is insane because that is a waste product. So it's not measuring what's in your blood at all, but that's a whole different story. But fructose, a ton of sugar, a ton of carbohydrates, a ton of lectins. This is where the raw diet kind of gets things wrong a little bit. So that's basically a breakdown of what lectins are. They're proteins that sneak into your body unannounced. They're not supposed to be there. They cause leaky gut. They cause autoimmune disease. They cause really serious problems. And the biggest offenders for lectins are healthy whole grains. They're not healthy at all. Whole grains, legumes are terrible. Fruits are pretty nasty. Anything with seeds is technically considered a fruit. A lot of vegetables, nightshades. Nightshades are real bad for this. Nightshades literally meaning darker, the peppers and that kind of thing. Peppers, tomatoes, all those loaded with lectins. Loaded with lectins. Nightshades are the worst offenders. So whole grains, beans, nightshades. If you're having issues, if you're having acne or eczema or arthritis or fibromyalgia, these are all inflammatory diseases. They're autoimmune diseases. You can solve them pretty quickly through lifestyle changes. That's the straight scoop on lectins. The other thing that people wanted clarification on last week was dairy. So I mentioned dairy kind of briefly. I don't remember how deep I went in with dairy. There are a lot of people that say dairy is healthy. There are a lot of people that say dairy will kill you. I'm on the kill you side of the fence, but with a caveat. There is healthy dairy. There's healthy dairy, and there's very unhealthy dairy that is basically like poison. And this all happened from basically evolution. So about 2,000 years ago, there was a gene expression that occurred in cows, and it made them stop producing. There's a normal casein protein. Casein is a milk protein. There's casein A2. Casein A2 is what most cows produce, and it's actually what most Eastern European cows produced. So they're producing casein A2. This weird, just genetic change in certain breeds of cows made them start producing casein A1. So now they're segregated as you have dairy that's casein A1, you have dairy that's casein A2. Casein A1 contains a casein lectin protein in the casein A1. So we go back to lectins from lesson number 1, what we just talked about. Lectins, there's also a lectin containing casein A1 milk protein. Now this is a particularly scary lectin because this lectin attacks your pancreas. Now, if you don't know what the pancreas does, the pancreas is in charge of insulin production. Insulin is the magic word in what? Type 2 diabetes. So you have this lectin protein containing casein A1 dairy that can attack your pancreas and can literally cause type 2 diabetes. So the funny thing is, if you're lactose intolerant and you move to Europe, you probably won't struggle with dairy. You really won't. It's mostly A2 cows out there. Now Americans, we do mostly feedlot stuff, and all the feedlot cattle is dairy, is casein A1 dairy. So you really, really want to avoid it. It's straight up poison. And I talked about dairy, like Kerrygold grass-fed butter. I'm a big fan of Kerrygold grass-fed butter. Now this comes from cows in Ireland. They are A2 cows, and the butter creation process removes most of the casein anyway. Removes most of the casein, removes most of the lactose. So lactose intolerant people usually are okay with something like a grass-fed butter. The other option that you have, and to be clear, you can get casein A2 dairy. Whole Foods, I think Turnip Truck here in Nashville has it, Trader Joe's, places like that. You can find A2 dairy. So if you have a problem with dairy, there are so many people that I've gotten their diet clean. I don't get this, but I've gotten their diet clean, and they have like eczema or something. So they're still having like an autoimmune response. They do not want to give up dairy. Cheese. It's always cheese, man. People love cheese. They love their milk. They don't want to give it up. I get it. So the other thing that I suggest to them is if you can't find A2 dairy, you want to try to hunt down dairy that's from goat's milk or sheep's milk. And nothing drives me more crazy than when I say switch from cows to goat milk or sheep milk and people go, ew, that's gross. I don't want to have goat milk. That's gross. Have you ever seen a cow udder? Really? Like in real life, you ever seen a cow udder? It's gross. Like you're drinking this, what milk is milk, right? It doesn't taste different. If I gave you goat cheese or sheep cheese next to cow cheese or whatever, you're not going to know the difference. You're just not. It's not a big deal. So that's the biggest thing you can do. If you don't want to give up dairy, try giving up dairy. Give it up for like 30 days, really. Just do away with it. And if you absolutely love it, you want to keep your dairy, then go with A2 dairy. If you can hunt it down, it's probably not going to be at like a Kroger or something like that. It's probably going to be at a health food grocer where you can find A2 dairy, goat's milk, sheep's milk, grass-fed butter, Kerrygold. Like I said, Kerrygold also makes cheese. So there is such a thing as grass-fed cheese from grass-fed cows. Kerrygold cheese is delicious. It's probably my favorite cheese that I've ever had. So you can hunt down Kerrygold cheese, you can hunt down Kerrygold butter, you can hunt down A2 dairy, you can hunt down goat's milk, sheep's milk, dairy. Now the other thing I'll say, because I just dropped a lot of things about Kerrygold and things like that, I've also set up a page. My website is clovisculture.com. So I'm going to do these AMAs every week, and then the next day a blog post will go up. It's going to have the video embedded, so even if you don't have a Facebook, a lot of people got pissed at me because they're like, dude, I don't have Facebook and I heard you're doing this thing. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I embed it on this blog post so you can watch it without a Facebook account, and then I'm going to put timestamps so you can see like, oh, we talked about intermittent fasting at 20 minutes, and you can check that out. And then I'm going to have links to all the resources that I named throughout the video. So if I name a book or I name a brand or I name Kerrygold butter, right, I'll give you a link to that. So that's a crash course on lectins. That's a crash course on dairy. So I know the dairy thing's kind of tricky. I just wanted to explain it the best way that I could. Maybe go back and listen to that a couple times once this video is posted. It's very important. It really, really is. It's one of the worst offenders for food sensitivities in America today, and people don't want to give it up, and I don't understand that mindset. If something's making you sick, just be done with it. So the other thing that people wanted clarification on, talked about lectins, talked about dairy. Number 3, the reason why I'm wearing this amazing red shirt is because we're going to talk about pre-workout supplements. Pre-workout supplements are awful. You shouldn't use them unless they're mine, and I don't care what that sounds like. Don't use a pre-workout unless it's mine or it's a cup of black coffee. Those are your options for pre-workouts. Seriously. If you try my pre-workout, try your old pre-workout for a day, the next day, try my pre-workout. If you don't like it better, just hit me up on Facebook, whatever, I'll give you your money back. I will give you double your money back if you don't like it better than the pre-workout. I'm telling you right now, it's that much of a difference. So let's talk about why pre-workouts are so scary. So in my work as a nutritional therapist, I kept getting this question over and over, can you recommend, because I recommend a ton of products. I know a boatload about supplements. There are a ton of fantastic brands, supplements that aren't my brand that I absolutely love, that I think everybody should be taking. There's fantastic products out there. Pre-workouts, there are no fantastic products out there until I launched this one. So the issue with pre-workouts is the whole point is to get you jacked, to get you so hyped up that you can muscle your way through a workout that you can't normally do, right? So then I get people who have been doing CrossFit for 3 years and they come talk to me, and literally if they're driving to the gym and they forgot their pre-workout at home, they're having a panic attack. Like, how am I gonna get through this workout? I'm gonna get through this workout. And then they half-ass it in the workout because they're like, I don't have my pre-workout. And they get in their own head. It's like cigarettes, man. Like they like get an addiction to pre-workout. Or there's all these memes floating around on Instagram of like faces of people just like, and they're like, oh, what happens when the pre-workout kicks in? And they're going crazy because I'm gonna tell you the ingredients that are making you feel that crazy jitter, crazy whatever. What you're asking for is you're putting yourself in a mindset that is asking for injury. And there is nothing I hate more than injuries in fitness. Are you getting paid for your fitness? No, you're not getting paid. Don't hurt yourself, dummy. It's not worth it. That's one of the things that I don't understand about certain methodologies of fitness is why are you willing to hurt yourself? Pre-workout is a quick way to get injured because you're going to run in there like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando and just start kicking stuff and throwing weights around like you're a 200-pound badass. It's just not smart, right? So pre-workouts. We'll talk about some of the most dangerous ingredients in pre-workouts. The first of these is aspartame. Aspartame is an artificial sweetener. Aspartame is famous for Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Diet Pepsi. Any diet soda drink that you find is going to contain aspartame. Aspartame is horrendous. Aspartame destroys your gut microbiome, which, by the way, is where most of your serotonin is made, and it has been linked directly with depression. It's been linked directly with Alzheimer's disease. It is a neurological disruptor. This thing is terrible. It attacks your nervous system. Aspartame will napalm your gut microbiome, will crush your serotonin production, will destroy brain function. You're going to have brain fog. It's just terrible for you. And here's a crazy statistic. If you take all the foods, we talked about dairy, lectins, grains, we've already talked about all this stuff, right? If a human being eats a food and they have a negative reaction to that food, and let's say it's so negative that they have to go to the hospital, 75% of all negative food reactions in this country are a result of aspartame. 75% of all negative food reactions are a result of aspartame. And this is still legally allowed for human consumption. It's staggering. So aspartame, number one, first and foremost, if you pick up a workout and there's pre-workout supplement and there's aspartame in it, get rid of it. If you look at your pre-workout in your house and it has aspartame in it, and you think, I don't want to waste my money, I'm just going to finish this pre-workout. No, throw it in the garbage. I'll buy you a new one, literally. So aspartame, first one you want to watch out for. Number two, and it's convenient that I'm wearing this shirt. Number two is artificial dyes and colorings, right? So you'll see a lot of branched chain amino acids do this. A lot of pre-workout supplements do this, where it's ingredients: red 45, blue 42. Red 47 sounds like Peyton Manning calling out plays or something. It's like, what the hell? What are all these red dyes? What is this shit? Why is this in my pre-workout supplement? We don't even know what they are. They're just synthetic chemicals that are neurological disruptors and nervous system disruptors. That's another reason why you feel so anxious, so jittery, so crazy, because it's affecting your sympathetic nervous system. So you want to avoid aspartame. You want to avoid any artificial colorings, right? The third one, these are referred to as DMAAs, I believe, but they're really just amphetamines. So what you have to look out for is they're labeled in a lot of different ways. So There are a ton of amphetamines. Think methamphetamine, right? You probably don't want to do methamphetamine. You probably just don't want amphetamines in your system. But you have to be careful how they're labeled, which brings me to another thing. If you're reading a label, and this has been taught, a lot of health people talk about this, personal trainers and stuff. If you can't pronounce something that's on a label, you probably shouldn't be putting it in your body, right? And that's the same thing with these amphetamines. So just for fun, I wrote down a couple of amphetamines that are notoriously in pre-workout supplements, and I'm gonna try to read them to you. This is how bad it is, all right? So let me see here. Pre-workouts, amphetamines. I wrote it under amphetamines. Methylhexanamine, I think I got it right. See? Solid, right? Insane. Next one, dimethylamylamine. This is insane, right? Why would you put that in your body? Let's just start there, right? If you're looking at a word and you're trying to sound it out the best you can, like your third grade teacher taught you how to when you learned how to read, and you just can't do it, like I just failed, don't put it in your body. Period. That's insane. I don't care if your CrossFit coach with 12-pack abs was like, this is my pre-workout, I take C4, you do it too. That guy's a dummy. Don't listen to that guy. Don't put it in your body. Poison, 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 poison. Throw it away, okay? So we talked about aspartame, we talked about amphetamines, we talked about dyes. The other big offender is caffeine. Now, to be clear, I don't have a problem with caffeine. I think coffee is a superfood. It's one of the healthiest foods we have. In fact, almost all of the antioxidants in the American diet come from chocolate and coffee. Literally, I eat dark chocolate every day. I drink coffee every single day. Now notice how I'm not saying I get a double shot of mocha caramel latte white chocolate frappa bullshit. I don't buy that. You can get black coffee, you can drink as much as you want of it. Literally, there's studies that show 5 to 6 cups a day actually have a ton of health benefits. And dark chocolate, anything over 80% cacao, dark chocolate, it's a superfood, loaded with antioxidants, loaded with fiber. So to be clear, I don't have a problem with caffeine, right? Caffeine isn't the issue. The problem is when you take 500 milligrams of caffeine and you take powdered synthetic caffeine and you say, we're gonna throw 500 milligrams, this person's gonna feel so jacked they think they're Superman, they can jump off a building, right? And it's just not smart. Like I said, you're gonna go in, you're gonna get injured, you're gonna be jittery, your hand-eye coordination's gonna be jacked, your sympathetic nervous system's through the roof. So that's the real issue. Caffeine, don't have a problem with. I have a problem when you're talking 200, 300, 400, 500 milligrams, right? You can't have that stuff in your system. You're gonna start causing problems, especially when it's not from whole foods. So let me talk to you about my pre-workout for a second. Mine does contain caffeine. It contains 150 milligrams of caffeine from ground whole coffee beans. We take whole coffee beans, grind them into a powder, and give you 150 milligrams of caffeine. To give you an example, a normal cup of coffee from Starbucks has 380 milligrams of caffeine on average. So between pike roast or blonde roast or whatever, on average, you're looking at 380 milligrams of caffeine per cup of Starbucks coffee. I have 150 per serving, and it's from whole coffee beans, right? It's less than half of a cup of coffee. You don't need all the other nonsense. You don't need to spike yourself to be all of a sudden you Hulk out. You just don't want to do that, okay? Now, the other problematic ingredient is something called yohimbe. So if you were ever a teenage boy reading Muscle and Fitness magazine or Men's Health, you probably have heard of yohimbe. Why? Because yohimbe is an Eastern herb that is used to treat erectile dysfunction. So that's the main, in Chinese medicine, that's what they use yohimbe for. Now, all these pre-workout supplements were like, oh, this increases blood flow. That's the idea, right? Increased blood flow. So they take this yohimbe and they load it into these pre-workout supplements to the point. Now, to be clear, all these ingredients that I've talked about, these get products pulled from the shelves. There are products that get banned. They get banned from GNC, they get banned from Vitamin Shoppe. You'll see a new pre-workout pop up that everybody loves. Oh my God, this is insane. I had the best workout of my life. This is incredible. 3 months later, it's gone. You can't find it anywhere. It was probably amphetamines. It was probably yohimbe. It was probably an unhealthy amount of caffeine. But that's the 5th ingredient that we get to, yohimbe. Yohimbe is such a serious blood flow activator that if you take too much of it, you can have a stroke. You could have a stroke, you can have a heart attack, And I've already talked about the sympathetic nervous system. Yohimbe is probably the biggest offender for this. Yohimbe and caffeine, and amphetamines. God, it's a deadly dose. These freaking pre-workouts. I can't believe they get sold, right? But you're gonna spike your sympathetic nervous system. Now, sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight, right? That's if somebody comes up and punches you in the face, your sympathetic nervous system is going to go through the roof and your body's going to decide real quick what it needs to do to survive. This is a stressful situation. Your sympathetic nervous system reacts to stress. If your sympathetic nervous system is spiked, you're stressed. Parasympathetic nervous system is your digest and rest. This is why I named my product Digest and Rest. One of the Perfect Paleo Powders is called Digest and Rest. It's for people to heal, right? Parasympathetic nervous system, digest and rest. Sympathetic nervous system. When you talk about amphetamines, you talk about caffeine, you talk about yohimbe, you are spiking the sympathetic nervous system. Your fight or flight is going to be on all the time. This is where things like roid rage happen. People talk about roid rage, like, oh my God, my boyfriend lifts weights and he keeps punching holes in the wall. I don't know why, right? He probably doesn't even take steroids. He's just taking a freaking crappy pre-workout. So all of a sudden, his sympathetic nervous system's through the roof, as if you just got out of a war zone. He gets home and you left your clothes on the floor and he's like, damn it, and punches a hole in the wall. And you're like, hey dummy, stop taking C4 pre-workout. You know, it's terrible for you. So those are the 5 ingredients. We have aspartame, we have dyes and colorings, we have amphetamines, we have caffeine, and we have yohimbe. These are the 5 most problematic that I see in pre-workouts. There's a ton of other ones in pre-workouts as well, but those are the most problematic that I see. So quick rundown, my pre-workout doesn't use any of those except for caffeine. Like I said, we have less than half a cup of Starbucks coffee in our pre-workout, 150 milligrams of caffeine from whole ground coffee beans. And then we also use 6 grams of branched chain amino acids. Branched chain amino acids are, like we talked about earlier, amino acids are the building blocks of life. These branched chain amino acids are the ones that can most readily be used for energy. They can be burned for energy almost instantaneously. So the branched chain amino acids will help you get through your workout because it's giving you another source of energy. You get a tiny little smooth feeling from your 150 milligrams of caffeine. Then we take vitamin B3, also known as niacin, and we give you 125% of your daily dose, right? So based on RDA is the normal daily dose of B3. You get 125 of B3, you get 50% of all your other B vitamins. So it's essentially a B vitamin complex, a very small dose of caffeine, less than half a cup of coffee, 6 grams of branched chain amino acids, then you have our beef collagen peptide, you have 10 grams of protein in there as well. It's a fantastic product. I mean, there's literally, so we have a comparison page, I'll show you guys a link to this, but we have infographics on how we compare to other competitors. It's just a list of what we include and what they include, and it's staggering. It's I can't even compare the two. It's my product. Am I biased? Yes, but is this still factual? Yes, 100%. I promise you. Money back guarantee. You can try it. So that's how our pre-workout differs from other pre-workouts. So these are the topics we touched on last time. Lectins, dairy, pre-workouts. So now I just wanted to elaborate on those, and we're already 33 minutes in. These things fly by, man. I need to remember that we're going to do this every week because I get on here and I want to just brain dump and tell you everything that I know, but I'd keep you here for decades, right? So let's talk about new topics. This is another Jackie one. Jackie, you're the best. Meal prep. I'm going to talk about meal prep. Jackie, let's touch on that because there are a lot of people who are very, very busy. They have kids. They have jobs. They have a 9 to 5. Thankfully, I don't know what a 9 to 5 is. I've never been there, but I'd imagine it's pretty difficult. So I try to help people as much as I can, having never been in that scenario where I do have to take food to an office place or something like that, or make decisions of what to have for lunch every day and things like that. So let's talk about meal prep, right? Cooking methods. First and foremost, meal prep tends to mean the same thing among all Americans, and I don't get it, right? Meal prep is always broccoli and chicken. And a lot of times rice. Broccoli, chicken, and rice. That's meal prep. I don't get it. Ditch the rice, ditch the chicken. Chicken is even worse than feedlot cattle. It's like one chicken breast can have the same amount of estrogen as 5 birth control pills. They're really raised terribly. Unless you can get pasture-raised chickens, which you're going to have to go to a farm to get the actual pasture-raised meat. You have to go to a farm where you know the farmer. So chicken, lean protein, you're not getting healthy fats. Stick with like grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, things like that. So let's just talk about that. First and foremost, what meat should you be prepping? Wild-caught fish of any kind, I'm a huge fan. Grass-fed beef, go ahead and do it. If you can get pastured chickens, go ahead, get pastured chickens. Taking foods with you in terms of snacks. You want to talk about macadamia nuts, pecans, avocados. You know, avocados can be a little tough to eat sometimes in public if you don't mind people looking at you eating an avocado. Those are things you can bring with you. But when you're meal prepping, let's say you're doing grass-fed beef or you're doing salmon. I don't recommend the approach of this 7-day thing. Sometimes you'll see these like bodybuilding people on Instagram or whatever, and they take a picture. It's a sprawling picture of their kitchen table, and they have like, 21 Tupperware containers lined up. They're like, meal prep for the week. Don't do that, man. I get that it's like kind of making things convenient, but by Friday, Saturday, you're eating very questionable food at that point. You really are. Whether you have it in the refrigerator or not, that's getting a little hairy. I don't think that I would trust that outside of like 3 days. So I wouldn't meal prep more than like 2-3 days. So you're talking maybe 2 pounds of grass-fed beef or something like that, or 2 pounds worth of wild-caught salmon and a few pounds of broccoli, something like that. Stick with complex carbohydrates. You can make some sweet potatoes, maybe bake a sweet potato for 2 minutes, and then when you're at work, bake it another 2.5, 3 minutes, something like that. I cook with cast iron. I love cast iron. I cook everything on cast iron. I sear a lot of meats. There are a lot of health people that tell you not to sear meats because it causes carcinogens or whatever. Maybe that's a vice of mine. I don't know. It's grass-fed beef, so if I cook it too much, whatever, I can live with that. But I also bake with cast iron as well. So sometimes it's really nice to heat up your cast iron and throw, you could throw 2 pounds of grass-fed beef in a cast iron, and you could cook it at a low temperature if you want to, maybe 225 in the oven, and then that way when you microwave it, because you are going to have to microwave this stuff, right? If you go to the office place or something and you need to microwave it, you don't want to be cooking all the nutrients out of it. So you're just slightly undercooking everything, I prefer cast iron. Stainless steel is also a good option. What you want to be careful for is a lot of nonstick pans. Non-stick pans, they're a great invention, but unfortunately they use a lot of toxic chemicals that are leaching into your food. You don't really want to use non-stick pans. So I would use stainless steel, or I would use cast iron, and I would also use, if you're worried about sticking, avocado oil is the best option for cooking because it has a smoke point of like 500 degrees. So to give you an example, like unrefined coconut oil, I think it has a smoke point of like 300. So if you heat it up too hot, it's going to smoke on you. It'll smoke out your kitchen, So and it'll pop and snap at you and ruin your clothes and blah, 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 blah. So avocado oil, cast iron or stainless steel, bake at a low temperature or sear stuff. That's totally fine too. Steam your vegetables. Always steam your vegetables. Always. Get a steam basket and steam them in a pot with a little bit of boiling water at the bottom. Don't use steam fresh bags, okay? So like I talked about, I have an article on my website that I'll link to called Your Microwave is Killing You. Just kidding. I went down the rabbit hole on microwave technology one day and just really, really wanted to get this figured out. Our microwave's terrible for you because I was reheating my coffee. Like my coffee would get cold while I'm answering emails or something, and I would nuke it for 35 seconds. I'm like, oh, am I melting my brain? Now, I never suggest cooking with a microwave. This is what I discovered, and that's the conclusion of the article. If you're reheating your coffee for 30 seconds, not a big deal. If you cooked some food beforehand and you want to heat it up at work so you can eat it, not a big deal. But don't cook in the microwave. And especially, it's not the microwave that's dangerous, it's what you cook things in. So if you take a steam fresh plastic bag, I don't care what Mr. Green Giant tells you that is a healthy bag, he's full of shit, right? If you're steaming your vegetables in a plastic bag, you're eating plastic. Don't eat plastic. Pyrex glass dishes. Glass Tupperware, that's what you want. Anything you're reheating in or storing in must be glass. Get glass. What about freezing ahead of time instead of leaving them in the fridge? Yeah, if you want to freeze, that's totally cool. That's another option. So if you wanted to meal prep for like a week, let's say, and you wanted to maybe have 3 of them in the fridge or 2 days worth in the fridge, and then, on the second day, you pull out 2 more days and you let them defrost in the fridge or whatever, then you reheat them in the microwave. That's great. That's a great idea. Yeah, I like that. So very good question. Thanks for touching on that. The other thing with meal prep, simplicity. I have another article that's called Simplicity, Why Paleo Can Be So Overwhelming. So I'm gonna put that in the show notes. Again, I'm gonna make a show notes page for this episode tomorrow. And I wrote this Simplicity article because this is where it gets weird. I have a section of my webpage called The Perfect Palate. And the Perfect Palate is our paleo recipes. Now what you will notice is there's not a single recipe on there that would take you more than 5 minutes to create. Literally. And this is what I talk about in the simplicity thing. There's something called Paleo Overwhelm. I call it Paleo Overwhelm. There's not something called, I call it Paleo Overwhelm. I'm just deciding that I create terms now. That's what I do. So one of my terms is Paleo Overwhelm. So what Paleo Overwhelm is, a lot of times you say you're going to go paleo, and you're going through the grocery store and you have this list that you printed out. Like if you guys, anybody who wants an approved foods list, I'll put it on the show notes too, because I made my own approved foods list that I think is the best one. And so if you're going through the grocery store, a lot of times you're in sections of the grocery store you've never even been in. This is new to you. It's a little overwhelming. You're like, whoa, I don't know what these foods are. What's a pasture-raised egg versus a free-range egg? What is this? A little overwhelming, right? Then you get home and you realize, I have to cook all my own meals for myself, because you can't really go grab a quick bite because it's not healthy, right? So now I got to cook all my own meals, and I haven't really cooked that much in my life. Overwhelm number 2. Grocery list, overwhelm number 1. I have to cook, overwhelm number 2. Number 3, I have to cook for myself. Better get a recipe. So then you Google. You make the biggest mistake of your life, and you Google paleo recipes, and you are hit in the face with 50 million different recipes that are like, you need organic nutmeg and thyme, and you need almond flour, and now you need a little bit of flaxseed, and you need orange zest, and you need lemon peel, and you're like, what the hell is this? Are you kidding me? And then anytime I look at a paleo recipe, and it's like, prep time, 35 minutes, cook time, 44 minutes. Go to hell, dude. I'm not using your recipe. Nobody has time for that. That's insane, right? Paleo recipe discovery and paleo recipe cookbooks, one of the fastest ways to failure, man, because people decide, if I'm gonna be paleo, every meal I do has to be a paleo recipe. Huge problem. Why would you do that to yourself? You don't have time for that. There is not a single meal. I cook 3 meals a day for myself, and it takes me a total of 30 minutes. Total 30 minutes. There's not a single meal I make for myself that takes more than 10 minutes. Unless, if I'm hosting, if I'm having my family over for Sunday dinner or something, sure, I might go all out and make paleo desserts and do all that. I might take the time to do that. But if I'm just trying to eat and live a healthy lifestyle, I don't have time for hour-long recipes. I'm not gonna do that, right? So keep it simple. The simpler you can make these recipes, the better. An example, in the article, I was like, hey, here's a recipe for paleo breakfast. Throw some eggs in a pan. Mix them around a little bit till they're fluffy. You're done now. Paleo dinner. Steam some broccoli. Throw some meat in a pan. Stir it around a little bit till it's not pink anymore. You're done. That's your meal. Done. That's it. You can use whatever seasonings you want. You can't use whatever marinades or anything you want. That gets tricky. I'll give you secrets. Oregano, basil, sea salt, rosemary, and coconut aminos. I'll give you a link to coconut aminos. Coconut aminos are the greatest thing in the history of the world. I use them for everything. Coconut aminos, rosemary, oregano, basil, sea salt. That's all you need to cook anything for the rest of your life. Cook some eggs, throw a little kale in there, simmer the kale in the pan, throw the eggs on top of it, mix it around, throw some sauerkraut in there if you want to get crazy. You know, just keep it very simple. None of these meals should take you more than 10 minutes. If you go out and say, I'm going to go paleo, and you buy yourself a paleo cookbook, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to get real tired of following instructions and following these recipes. Just learn. What I call single ingredient foods, right? Grass-fed beef, single ingredient food. Broccoli, single ingredient food. Eggs, single ingredient food. Just take single ingredient foods, throw them in a pan and mix them around and throw some seasoning on there and see what you like. Just experiment a little bit. This should be fun. It should be fun. It should be quick. You're trying to fuel your body in a healthy, sustainable way, you know? Black pepper, yeah, sure, go for black pepper. But black pepper is actually a bionutrient, meaning that it can actually help you absorb nutrients better. So black pepper for certain things, great. Black pepper on eggs, awesome. Black pepper on meat, awesome. Yeah, black pepper, totally cool. I mean, literally, when I say any seasoning, you can literally use any seasoning that you want, except for seasoning blends, because that's the thing. If you go say, wait, Justin said any seasoning, and then you grab McCormick, Mixed Grill, Master, whatever, and there's 3 different types of sugar in there, now you're in trouble, you know? So again, single ingredients. Buy oregano, basil, black pepper, rosemary. Don't get a blend that throws maltodextrin and sucrose and all this other stuff in there. Read the ingredient labels. Get single ingredient seasonings and you're gonna be fine. And then coconut aminos, my favorite thing in the world. So meal prep, that was another question we had. We touched on Tupperware, glass Tupperware. Only use the microwave for reheating. Don't cook in the microwave. The other big one, this is a fan favorite, right? Alcohol. Where does alcohol stand in the grand scheme of these things? I went through this last week. This is a giant bar that I have. That's awesome. Yeah, Ben. Cumin, what'd I say? That's a single ingredient. Use that. You're fine. So this is my bar, right? And alcohol. Alcohol is a big deal, right? I've been a musician for 15 years. I got a heavy history with alcohol, right? And everybody wants to know how alcohol affects this stuff. So if I put you on a protocol, let's say, that says the only beverages you can drink are green tea, black coffee, and water, because that's what my protocol says, right? Those are the only beverages that you can drink. And 2 weeks in, you're doing great, and then you have a company Christmas party and you have 3 glasses of wine and a shot of Jack Daniels, and you think that you've ruined everything. You haven't ruined everything. So I need to take a 2-pronged approach to this, because you have to decide what you're looking for. One, alcohol's a toxin. It's always going to be a toxin, most notably a neurotoxin. So alcohol will cause brain fog. Alcohol will not make you fat. Now let me be clear on this. Beer is not alcohol. Jack and Coke is not alcohol. You see what I'm saying? These have added ingredients that are not alcohol. I'm talking about distilled alcohol. Vodka, gin, tequila, whiskey, these things will not make you fat. It doesn't work that way. So, but you have to drink them by themselves. That's the thing. Now they are a neurotoxin. They're gonna give you brain fog. You might feel crappy the next day, but you're not gonna ruin your fat loss. The only time when this is a little bit different is that toxins are stored in fat, okay? So I'll jump there in a second, but alcohol is always gonna be a toxin. If your only goal is to lose fat, it's really not gonna mess things up for you. 2 drinks, 3 drinks, whatever. Don't go out and have 10 because your body's just not gonna work correctly. You are poisoning your body, so it's not gonna work as efficiently as it should at anything. Fat burning, muscle building, any of these things. Focus, all those things are gonna be hurt by these toxins, all right? So alcohol is a toxin. Get that through your head. That's very important. Anytime you make that decision, it's definitely gonna be a little bit of a problem. So the fat side of this, don't worry about it making you fat. What makes you fat is Coca-Cola, tonic water. I hate that tonic water is called tonic water. Why? Just call it sugar. It's just sugar, right? So you have 2 options. When you're in a bar or a restaurant, you can mix vodka, gin, tequila, or whiskey with 2 things, water or soda water. That is it. You don't get grenadine, you don't get simple syrup, you don't get lime juice because you don't know what that lime juice actually is. Ask for lime wedge, that's cool. Those are your only options. Water, soda water, and straight liquor. Now, I'm not talking flavored liquor either. When I tell you can drink vodka, don't go get whipped cream flavored vodka and tell me, oh, Justin, I drank vodka and got fat. No, you didn't drink vodka. You drank some other shit, you know? So distilled liquor, really not a big deal. And the other company that I brought up last week, friends of mine, Todd White and Dry Farm Wines, right? And I even took this out, right? This is Dry Farm Wines, okay? So Dry Farm Wines is imported from European vineyards. And in America, we have much less regulation on what goes into wine. So there are 76 known carcinogens. These are cancer-causing agents that are allowed in American wine that are not allowed in European wine, which is why a company like Dry Farm Wines is so valuable, because they're giving you wines that are free from all these toxins that you normally have to worry about. They have less alcohol, they have less sugar. So all Dry Farm Wines, 1 glass is less than 1 gram of sugar, whereas a typical American wine, even a dry red wine, will have about 4 grams of sugar per glass. So a little less alcohol, a little less sugar, much, much better for you. That's just an option because I know people love wine. I don't want to take wine away from people. I love wine. I have a subscription for Dry Farm Wines. They're great. So that's an option. So you have the wines and you have straight liquor, vodka, gin, tequila, whiskey. The other thing you remember is if you're at home, if you're having a party or something, we talked about this last week, is LaCroix, Zevia. These are all options for you for mixers. If you're at home, do it. You know, vodka LaCroix is great. You can make a Jack and Zevia. It's going to taste just like a Jack and Coke. It's going to be delicious, right? But you're not killing yourself with it. So you can do these things. It's just when you're out and about in a bar or something, really soda water or water. Those are really your only 2 options. And alcohol by itself is not going to make you fat. But I want to touch on this toxins thing because before we run out of time here, what happens is sometimes I'll get a client that I'll put on the same protocol as the next client. One client in 2 weeks loses 20 pounds. Another client in 2 weeks loses 3 pounds. And they're going, well, Justin, you're full of shit. This doesn't work, right? And I'm going, okay, just stick with me here. Please just stick with me here. And I'm asking that reason. I'm asking you to do that. I'm asking you to trust me because there's a trigger point for everyone. I was explaining this to a real close friend of mine this past week. Where this trigger point comes from is how unhealthy your body was internally before you started this process. So if you're obese, I went over this last week. If you're obese, I don't care what you look like naked. I don't care about a bikini. I don't care about 6-pack abs. I care how healthy you are on the inside. I care how long you're gonna live, really. So if you're obese, you're ill. Your body is ill. You have to think of it like an illness that you need to cure, right? And everybody's gonna take a different length of time for this illness to cure. And let me tell you one of the crazy reasons why that is. So let's say you're a heavy, heavy drinker and you eat a lot of fast food, and you have high visceral fat. So there's subcutaneous fat. Like if I go like this and try to grab fat, right? This is subcutaneous fat that's outside of my muscle. It's muscle and then fat after that, right? So if I have a big beer belly, you'll see a lot of they call them beer belly for a reason, because a lot of old men will be skinny. They might look like this up top, and then they just have this belly, and the belly's rock solid, right? That is visceral fat, because the fat is behind their muscles. It's underneath their muscles, and this is the most dangerous type of fat because it surrounds your organs. It can literally suffocate your organs. So here's how this goes even deeper. This is crazy to think about. Like I said, alcohol is a toxin. So if you're a heavy drinker, you have a lot of toxins in your system. Do you know where toxins are stored? Toxins are stored in your fat cells. Toxins are fat soluble. This is what we talked about with dairy as well. It's why you don't want to drink dairy from feedlot cattle, because you're getting hormones, antibiotics, whatever pesticides they ate. All this shit is trapped in those fat cells, right? So when you're drinking the fat, you're getting what you eat. You are what you eats. So what the cows eat is going in your system, right? So the same thing works with humans. If you have a 20-year history of drinking every night and eating fast food and eating fried foods, and you have all these toxins stored in your system, here's what your body does. The fat works as a safety mechanism. As long as the fat grabs these toxins and holds them, they're not in your bloodstream, okay? So think about that. If they're inside the fat cell, they're not inside your bloodstream, because your fat cell draws things in from the bloodstream, right? So now you have these toxins stored in your fat. And if you're an obese person and you were ill, you had really, really poor habits, then you have a lot of toxins stored in your fat. And get this, when I switch you to a low-carb diet and your body wants to start burning fat for fuel, your body knows. Your body is so intelligent that it knows there are toxins stored in the fat, and it tries desperately to hold on to the fat. Why? Because when it burns the fat, those toxins now get released into your bloodstream. How crazy is that? And your body is going, well, we're sick, we're not that good at detoxing. If I burn this fat and I get hit in the face with a bunch of toxins, I'm not really good at getting those out of my system. This is another part of the keto flu. When people go really low carb and they feel like complete dog shit, some people feel like dog shit for 3 days. Some people feel like dog shit for 7 days. Those people had more toxins in their system. They're literally flushing their body with toxins. As they burst these little fat cells, start burning these fat cells, they're releasing toxins in their systems that have been stored there, because toxins are fat soluble. So this trigger point comes at a different time for everyone. So if you're 2 weeks in or something and you're having trouble, you're like, I lost 3 pounds, I lost 5 pounds, there's a reason your body's storing fat, and we just need to stick with the program, because you get to a point where when it runs out of glucose, it has to burn fat. The only option is die or burn fat. I promise the body will go, screw it, let's release some toxins, let's burn this fat so we don't die. Right? It's going to do that. But you have to just be patient. It's another reason why I say people don't try keto, low carb. They don't stick with it for long enough, because the trigger point's different for everybody. You might get lucky. You might drop 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Now, if you're 400 pounds, you're probably going to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. If you're 155 pounds and you're trying to lose your last 5 pounds of fat just so your abs show or something, might not happen in 2 weeks, man. We have to stick with this thing. You have to stick it out, you know? Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll go into that. I wanted to talk about all these things. We touched on a lot today, and let's do a quick Q&A. I got a few minutes left. Ben, no, I don't mind stevia. I've researched this pretty extensively. Stevia can get a little bit wonky if you talk about it in really, really high doses. Really high doses. Like if you have a stevia dropper and you're just doing 3-4 droppers full of stevia in everything that you drink, you might have a problem. It slightly mimics estrogen. It actually looks a lot like estrogen molecularly, so you can run into some hormonal issues. It can be a hormone disruptor. So first things first, if you enjoyed this so far, everything we talked about, click the like button, click the happy face, click the love button, share it to your page. Please shower me with all the love I needed for my ego. If you have any questions, there's a few of you in here right now. If you have any questions, just start posting them. I'm going to start saying bye here in a couple minutes. So let's see if we have any questions. I'll give you guys a minute to think about questions. We'll go over stuff that we hit today. We hit on lectins, we hit on dairy, we hit on pre-workouts, we hit on alcohol, we hit on meal prep, we hit on Tupperware, we hit on microwaves. That's a lot of stuff. So yeah, we'll probably call it for this session. Again, I'm going to make blog posts of all these. It's going to embed the video. It'll be on the Clovis Culture website. I will share it in the comment sections of this video. So let's say you commented like Ben did, you'll probably get a notification that I've commented on the video. When that web page is ready, we'll embed the Facebook post so you can watch it even without a Facebook account. If you share that link, you can share it to your friends, and even if they don't have Facebook, they can watch it. Weekly cast, it's every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central. Now this is only episode number 2. It's been great, so I'm going to keep doing this as long as you guys keep giving me questions all throughout the week. Just pepper me with questions. If I don't respond to you, please don't feel bad, because that's the whole reason why I did this, was I was just getting bombarded with too many questions, and this is a way for me to manage that. I can take the most popular questions from the week, and I can do this kind of format of 2 to 3 topics, and then I can do a live Q&A. So as of right now, it's going to be every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Central. Depending on how crazy the questions get, maybe we'll add one and do 2 a week or something like that. But as of right now, we're going to do the 1 a week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. So let's go like another minute here and see if you guys have any other questions. Thank you. I really appreciate the thank yous, really. I love doing this. It makes me very, very happy, and I appreciate you guys allowing me to do it, and I hope we can continue to do it. So keep the questions coming all throughout the week, and I'll continue to give info. I'm also going to drink this dry farm wines, which you guys should totally do too. Find some, and yeah. Thank you so much. This is weekly Ask Me Anything Facebook Live number 2 with the Clovis Culture, and this is Justin Nault. Excess protein. All right, let's hit this real quick. No, not for you. Well, Ben, I know you. You work out a lot, right? So excess protein is only an issue if you're really, really sedentary and like literally you have a day job where you sit around all day and then you come home and sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Excess protein can be a problem, but it's very, very, very difficult to overdo protein. Unless if you're really trying to do rapid fat loss, you can run into it if you're sedentary. But I mean, you'd have to be eating a lot of protein. All right. So thank you guys very much. Again, my name is Justin Nault. I own the Clovis Culture, and I created the Perfect Paleo Powder line of nutritional supplements. Check it out at clovisculture.com. We have t-shirts for sale at Clovis Culture. We have sample packs for sale. If you have any questions about products or anything, hit me up. This week, Facebook, I'm just Justin Nault, N-A-U-L-T on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, Justin Nault. You can find me Twitter at Justin Nault. You can find me Justin Nault anywhere. Just Google and hit me up in any way you want. Give me questions for next week. Let me know if you have questions about this. Let me know what you like about the format. If you think I'm doing a good job of this or not, let me know what I can change. I want to get better. I want to give you guys the most information I can in the most easily digestible way for you so that you really enjoy it, that you really walk away feeling like you've learned something. This is all about you guys. That is my core value with Clovis. Impact the lives of as many human beings as possible. Literally. Impact the lives of human beings for the better. That's all I care about. You guys are letting me do that. And for that, I thank you very, very much. Until next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it.